Have you ever wondered how to break into the sport industry or what you need to do in order to get where you want to be in sports? We know it's a very competitive field, but today I've got Grace Powers on with me, manager of group sales at Kroenke Sports Entertainment for the Colorado Avalanche and Colorado Mammoth. Today I'm very excited. I'm going to interview her. She's joining right now, actually. Wow, perfect timing. Hi.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks so much for setting this up.
Yeah, of course. Sorry, I was having some issues with Zoom. I haven't used Zoom in a while, so it was a little bit annoying
You
to
are all good. Don't
uh
worry about it.
and sorry if I'm looking down here sometimes. My computer's right here, but my camera's right here, so it's a little um odd to deal with. But just so you know, I'm not just looking off the screen.
You are all good, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. So I guess I'll just like jump right into it because I think most of the time I see with sales is that people are pretty and they're like hesitant. They're like, do like I don't really want to do sales. I don't want to sell stuff. So what would you say to someone that is hesitant to working in sales and doesn't really think that it's for them?
Sure. I think that there is definitely like a stigma around it. I think you're right. And like everybody pictures this sleazy car salesman just like trying to pull the wool over somebody's eyes, right? But at the end of the day, I think sports sales is a little bit different in the sense that there are so many different avenues that you can go down and avenues that can make your sales career really creative, avenues that can make your sales career really focused on personal relationships with the same people year over year. There are just so many different opportunities that you can do based on your working style and what you really want out of your career. And at the end of the day, too, like we're selling something fun, right? And it's something that people are really enjoying. And we're creating this atmosphere in Ball Arena that is unmatched, right? And I don't think that any of my colleagues or me has ever wanted to make a sale that feels wrong and feels like, hey, this person isn't a fit, but we're just going to get them over the line just so that we can hit our numbers at the end of the month, right? Like that's not how that works because that will, upset the flow of kind of what we're doing, right? We want everybody to be happy in the arena. So I think that, yeah, it's not as black and white as people think it is. And a lot of folks in sports will go through an inside sales program. It's probably the hardest job that they're ever going to have. It was certainly the hardest job that I've ever had and probably will ever have, just because, you're making 100 cold calls a day. But once you get through that and you really identify, okay, what avenue of sports sales works with my personality and works with what I want out of my job, there's a really, really fun career waiting for people.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're more of an introvert or an extrovert?
Oh, I'm 100% an introvert. We
Introvert?
actually just took personality tests at work, which I thought was really funny. We did it for our entire leadership team, and we could all see where we fell on the circle. And I was definitely alone in my little corner as an
Really?
introvert because I do like I need a lot of time to recharge. But I also really enjoy being around people for, set amounts of time. I love sports. I love
Right.
working games. I love interacting with clients. I love helping my reps set up their post games or set up their assets that they've booked during the game. And then I come home and I need to be on my couch for like 8 hours and no one can speak to me.
I feel like so I was looking through your LinkedIn, of course, all your past experiences. I feel like all of the jobs you've had are like the polar opposite of what an introvert maybe would want to do with like working in events. Like an event job seems so like you got to talk to everybody, you got to bounce around. And sales is definitely seems like an extrovert's job, but it's cool to see that there are people that, you maybe want to be alone, but you can still succeed in sales. So I just think that's cool.
Yeah, thanks.
So I guess just tell me a little bit about your current role, because I think it says on there your group sales manager, correct?
Yeah. So I'm
Okay.
the group sales manager for the Avs and the Mammoth. And so I have a team of five, and they're in charge of selling our group tickets. So it's basically anybody that needs 10 or more seats to a game, whether that's a school looking to fundraise for their PTO. It could be a youth hockey team looking to come in and play on the ice after a game. It could be a pickleball league looking to, do something fun for their members. We get a lot of corporate stuff. We have really great spaces up on our club level that my team sells. And so I'm just in charge of making sure that my team is going in the right direction, using all the tools that they have at their disposal. And we're really using every inch of the arena to our advantage to drive group tickets. Because at the end of the day, when you're looking at how arenas are split up ticketing wise, like you have your core, people who have FSC packages. So your season tickets, your half seasons, your partial seasons, then you're looking at, okay, what's going to consignment, what's going to the single game market, and what's left over, right? And usually what's left over is, single game market and group tickets.
Hmm.
And group tickets play a really important role because they take a large amount of seats off the system, which then drives up demand and helps build the single game market. So it is a really important aspect of filling a building and ticketing. I know I've worked for teams before who had 3,000 tickets set aside for groups per game that didn't even hit the single game market, and the groups team had to sell them all
Wow.
because they needed some help filling the building, right? On the Av side, where the team has some demand in the single game market, we do share our inventory with singles, which again just means that my team is helping to drive up demand in the market and make the arena a really fun, packed place to be.
Right. I think people overlook like how important sales are to the function of like a team because if ticket sales doesn't do their job, there's nobody at the game, which means for the team it's like, oh, where's the home? Then players don't want to come to that team. It's like it's crazy how like a lot of people say that like everything has a tie-in at least a little bit to the team because I guess theoretically you couldn't do it without marketing or you couldn't do, but sales is really like actually has a direct impact on the team. It's very interesting.
Absolutely. And like what I really enjoy about group sales and why I immediately wanted to go into it my first week in inside sales is that what we're selling is an experience. It's time with other people. It's, a unique asset on the ice, whether it's a group photo for a company. And so the people who are coming out, most of the time, I'm going to say 99% of the time, don't care what's going on out on the ice. When I was in Philly, I sold a Girl Scout night that did like 1,700 tickets, and I would call these Girl Scout moms and they'd be like, "Hey, this is the one on the ice, right? Like, we're really excited for this." And I was like, "Yeah, this is hockey. Like, we're gonna have a good time. Don't worry about it." And so even if the team is just really struggling and not the reason that people want to come into the arena, the group sales team can still have a really fun, creative job figuring out how to use the building in the best possible way so that people are having a really good time.
Yeah, group sales definitely sounds it sounds pretty fun. So I guess I'm curious as to how you got to the role that you're at now. Like what did you do to get there?
Sure. So as I said, I started in inside sales at the Flyers, and this is a little bit embarrassing, but it took me into like my first day in training when I was like, oh, we're selling like full season tickets. That's what we're doing. Um, and at the time, the Flyers were, I love them very much, but they were not the best team in the world. Arguably, maybe one of the worst. But it was still, it was a blast. And I saw that the group sales team was doing some really cool theme nights and working with really interesting groups. And I knew I wanted to be on that team. So I went to their director, Gab, who is absolutely wonderful. And I told her that I want to be on her team. And she said, okay, prove it. Like, sell some groups and we can talk if I ever have an opening. And so I did. And around July, so 5 months into my time with the Flyers, there was a role that opened. And I ended up getting that job, which was awesome. I think at that point I had been in Philadelphia for about 6 years, and it's a wonderful city, but just not quite where I wanted to live. So I knew I wanted to go live in the mountains. I knew I wanted to stay within the NHL. And so, because I unfortunately do not have Canadian citizenship, it looked like Colorado was where I had to be. So I ended up applying to account executive role there. So I would have been like a group rep selling on that team. And I applied about 2 weeks after I got my group sales job at the Flyers. And I was very naive and I thought, you know what? What's the harm in just throwing this application out there? They are 1,700 miles away. They probably don't even know each other. They're not even going to give my application a look because I'm not super qualified. I've been in my role for 2 weeks. But like, let's just put my name out there. And I did it, and I came into work the next morning, and Gab came to my desk and said, "Why don't you come into my office?" And I think I just like went completely white. So I walked in and she was like, "Let's shut the door." And I mean, that's just the worst words that you ever want to hear. Um, and so she looked at me, she was like, "Why did you apply to the Avalanche? Like, I just hired you." And I was like, "Oh my God, you were not supposed to know about that." She was like, "Well, I know about everything. And also, I'm very close with them. So when they saw your application, they called me and I had no idea what you were doing." And it really threw me off. I wouldn't have hired you if you didn't want to be on this team. And I was like, you know what? That it's completely fair. I want to live in Colorado, but if I'm not in Colorado, there's nowhere else that I want to be. Like, I want to be on your team if I'm not over there. And she goes, "Okay, I appreciate you telling me that now, a little bit late, but And she was like, the more that you communicate with me about like what you want to do professionally and where you want to go, I can help you with that. But if you don't talk to me, then I have no idea what you want to do and I can't help you." And that was like a big turning point for me. I think working with her for what, like 2 weeks at that point, we didn't have that rep manager relationship. I didn't really know her. She didn't really know me. And it was definitely a bad look. Um, but I went through that interview process. I didn't get the job. I think I was the like runner up for it. But um, she told me, she was like, "Look, work really hard on my team, stay in contact with their leadership team over there, and if it is right, something will open up." I was like, "Okay, that sounds like a plan to me." So I grinded it out in Philly. I had the best time. I had the best clients. Me and Gab's relationship was a huge reason of why I flourished over there. And then in July, I guess of 2023, um, she let me know that they were looking for a group sales manager and that they had called her and asked if I was interested. So,
Wow.
um, it was definitely the payoff for staying in contact with them. Because I had called my current boss now a couple times when I was a rep just to like give him updates on what I was doing. So I ended up interviewing for the manager role and I got it, and it's been wonderful ever since.
Oh, that's so cool. Wow. Wow, that's super interesting. I would have thought the same way as you, like, I'm just gonna apply for this. What's the worst that can happen? And then literally the worst happened. So,
Oh
uh,
yeah. Oh my God, it was a nightmare.
I can't imagine that conversation would be very, very awkward.
Yeah, definitely a good lesson to learn of like everybody knows everybody, but also if you're honest with people and you're really intentional about where you want your career to go, like people are more than willing to help you get there.
Right. It's not really they're not trying to hold you back. They want you to grow too. So
Exactly. They just want
it's
to know.
encouraging to hear. It's encouraging to hear because I think a lot of people maybe would deal with a boss that if that had happened where they're like, well, you're not going anywhere, or I'm gonna talk badly about you because you just did that 2 weeks in, you know? So it sounds like that it worked out, which is good.
It worked out. Gab is amazing.
It
So I
worked.
have nothing but the best things to say about her, and I miss her very much.
Um, so I guess I want to transition a little bit into like more of why you decided to go into sales because you had a lot of experience working events. Like I know that there's like event management roles that you probably had plenty of experience to step into with a company like KSC. So why make the switch to sales while you were in Philly?
Yeah, I think that one, like inside sales is really a great way to get your foot into the door of an organization. And that's where I had the most relevant experience. And I figured, like, let's just give it a shot. But what I really like about sales is that you control your own destiny, right? Like, as long as the company that you're working for is giving you adequate tools to go out there and do your job, like you are in control of what you close. You are in control of how many people you reach out to. You're in control of the creative experiences that you make. I try to say not yes to everything or every new idea that my reps come to me with, but like let's think through how you can make this like really impactful and also market this to the group of people that you want to go out to. And if it is a good idea and it holds up, like let's freaking do it. So that control over your own, outcome, whether it's well, it is professional and also financial, was something that was really attractive to me, right? Um, like making commission is a huge part of
Yeah.
sales, and it is really important, and it's a way that, the sales reps, pay their rent. So I never wanted to be in a situation where I felt like I didn't control that.
Right. I like that. That's a cool way to look at it. It definitely is a step in the door. That's everything that I hear all the time is like get into sales, it at least get you in to the building. So, um, I guess I'm curious of your time so far that you've had with KSE. You've mentioned the Girl Scout thing in Philly, but what's the most fulfilling part that you've had so far?
Oh man, I think, as a manager now, I'm not working with clients unless I'm working with them through the reps.
Right.
So for me, it's like seeing every single one of my five reps come up with a really creative idea and put in 110% of their effort to make it worthwhile for their clients and make it really cool. Um, I have one rep who found a firefighters and veterans hockey league called Brave Warriors and contacted them as to how we can work together. He ended up setting up one like championship game for them in preseason and was like, hey, there's a lot of opportunity there. So he really proved to us that the relationship that he had with his client was wonderful and they were really interested in working with us. So the next time that they came back, actually this season in February, we got our alumni association involved. And we did like a skills competition with the
Oh,
Brave
wow.
Warriors players and the Avs alumni. Then they did a scrimmage, and it was really fun just to see like all of the different avenues and opportunities that open up when you build that really good relationship and when you prove that this relationship is valuable to KSE and to both sides and how it can help one another. We just had a call about how we're going to make it bigger and better next year, and it has driven a lot of engagement to the Brave Warriors, social media pages and given them a lot of attention. It raised a lot of money for them because we did fundraisers through our tickets. It made a lot of revenue for us. It meant that we used our ice really creatively and it gave us a better relationship with the Alumni Association. So like it checked just about every box you would want it to check. And it all came from, Kyle having this. I don't know if I should say his name. It all came from, my rep having a really good idea and saying, "Hey, I believe in this. I want to run with it." So that was really, really fulfilling.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I feel like I remember hearing something about that from some.
It
I
was
don't
awesome.
remember who I heard that from, but I heard about that, so it's cool that you mention it. So you brought up the fact that you're a manager, and I'm just in my classes I've learned that there's a difference between leadership and management. Have you had any like would you say that that's true in sports, or is that something that's like it's kind of the same thing?
In the sense of like leadership is a separate role or that like the
Right.
actions are
Yeah,
different.
we'll say a different role.
Okay, I think that like we definitely have tiers.
Hmm.
So, at the Avs, I'm the manager. I have my five reps, and then there's a director who I report to. I think he's actually your mentor,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yep.
He is
Oh yeah.
wonderful. So I report to him, our coordinator reports to him, and then he's a little bit less hands-on with the reps in the sense that like he's not sitting out with them every day.
Right.
But his job is just different, right? He still has a wonderful relationship with them. They really respect him. They really look up to him. So I think that like I'm not sure how different it is, just in the sense that like yes, there's different job titles,
Yeah.
and I think some people are a little bit more in the weeds, numbers wise, and not as hands-on when it comes to working with the actual sales reps. But especially at KSC, like everybody tries to be as hands-on as possible, and as like here, I'm out on the floor, I'm listening to you, like let's have a great day.
Right.
Um, so there's certainly not people that just, shut themselves in their office and say,
Okay.
well, I'm not dealing with whatever's out there.
Right. That makes sense. Okay. So last thing. I appreciate you spending time with me. I know it's been a little bit longer than I said
No,
it
this
was.
was,
So
I thought we had half an hour. This is a blast.
so the last thing I've asked every single person that I've talked to this, if you could rank the following things based on how important they are to work in sports, what would it be? So we have networking, education, and experience.
Oh man. I think I'm gonna put them, I think networking is 100% number one,
Okay.
right? Like you
Wow.
don't need to be a sport management major. I was a music industry major. I took one sport management class. It was an elective. Um, But what happened was when I was applying for that inside sales role, I like cold emailed that teacher and I was like, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me, but I would love some advice because I'm thinking about going into sports." And she like 20 minutes later responded and was like, "Yep, like let's hop on a call. Super excited to walk you through this." And so like those personal relationships are far and away the most important thing. Um, I think education and experience might be tied. I might put experience as second, but I'm not sure that like actual sports industry experience is what I mean. I think it's more like customer service experience. Like, are you friendly? Like, are you actively putting yourself out there and getting involved in organizations, whether it's in a community service
Yeah.
standpoint or like a volunteer standpoint that, are people that you want to be around. And then education for sure, right? Like, I think it's important to be intentional about where you're applying and to know a lot of background information about that. But like, again, I don't think you have to be a sport management major. And I say that from someone who really pigeonholed themselves in their major and then graduated college and was like, oh my God, I don't want to do this. I don't want to live in New York. I don't want to live in LA. Like, what am I doing?
Right.
But I think it can play a really important factor when, you're in a sports management program and you're doing all the right things and reaching out to the right people and getting involved where you can. So
Yeah, that makes sense. None of them are not important. I didn't want, I know I'm kind of putting you in like a situation of like, oh, this isn't important, but that was a good explanation of all three, I think I would say. So that's all I got for you. Um, I appreciate you talking to me. Thank you.
awesome. Well, this was wonderful, Austin.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, this was great. Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a wonderful rest of your morning and hopefully I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, you too.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so that was Grace Powers. That was excellent. That was great. That was so much fun. I apologize that I'm looking down here. I have my phone as ooh, I have my phone as my camera right here, but then my computer is right here. So I felt like I wanted to look at her while she was talking, but my camera's up here, so it's probably weird for her. I'll have to figure out what I can do to like fix that, but I feel bad because I'm like looking right here but she doesn't know that. But I feel so weird looking at the camera and talking like this. It's just not the same. Like I like to be able to look at who I'm talking to, but she was a Boston fan. You all should be Boston fans. Um, that was great. That was super informative. I hope you enjoyed. If you guys know anybody or if you are interested in joining the pod, if you have any experience you would like to share or talking about, reach out to me. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode of the pod. Thank you for joining me. And until next time, peace out, y'all. I guess audio listeners, I just did a salute. If you're watching this on camera, you saw the salute, so I guess there was no need to explain it to you. Have a good night, guys.